Hey guys, welcome to video 5, how to get started sourcing good, profitable product to sell on Amazon that you have some data behind that you know is going to sell, at least eventually. So anyway, we have this 15-step guide that we're going to walk through together. It's a Google Doc. It's going to be available either right below this video or like in the video somewhere. You'll know where it's at, I promise. It's going to be a free resource. It's 15 steps to analyze a good product. I wrote it kind of like, if you're from the 90s or before, you might remember those read your own adventure books where it's like, John walks up to a door. Does he go through it? If so, turn to page 5. If he turns away and goes home, turn to page 10. And whatever page you would turn to would give you a different outcome, of course. I wrote it kind of like that, where as you walk through the process, if you succeed, then you move to the next step, and if you fail, you go all the way back to the beginning. So it's really, really easy for beginners to understand, which was my whole goal of putting it together, of course. And so we're going to walk through this thing together today. One thing I wanted to ask is that if you're watching this video and it's any time past October 2nd, 2018, and you notice any inconsistencies, like something that has changed in the market or something that's not the same anymore, please let me know. Reach out to me or reach out to the ORB radio page and let us know so we can update this video, because this is going to be a living resource for anybody who's trying to get started selling on Amazon. And this is probably the most important topic. It's going to be the longest video, and we're going to talk a lot about how to analyze products and make sure that you're buying good, profitable items for Amazon. Now, I want you to know this. Even though this is a free resource, I'm giving you everything I do, every step. This is everything you need to succeed. So any paid stuff that's down the road, that's going to be more like access to me and more coaching and training and stuff like that. But this right here is exactly what I do. This is, I mean, to a T. I mean, there's some little finite stuff that I might do different nowadays, but this is everything you need to get started selling on Amazon. So this might be a little bit of a lengthy video, and it's not meant to be consumed in one sitting. I mean, you can watch the whole thing, of course, but it's something you can go back to and walk through step by step until you have this process imprinted in your brain, and you can just do it at the drop of a hat. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get started going through these 15 steps, okay? All right, guys, so let's get started here. So I've printed out the 15 steps to analyzing a product. Like I said, that resource is available somewhere around here. And so we're going to walk through this thing together. The very first thing you're going to need right now, if you haven't done it, go to the App Store on your Android or your iPhone and download the Amazon Seller app. It's not the same as like the Amazon Consumer app. Let me show you here real quick if I can pull it up. It looks like this right here. It's that black one. It says Amazon Seller, and that image might change over time, of course, but it hasn't in the past 5 years. But it's not the same as like the Amazon Store app. You need both, but just make sure you download the Amazon Seller app first. So after you have the Amazon Seller app, if you have Inventory Lab, which if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But if you have Inventory Lab, go download the app Scoutify, which is free with your subscription to Inventory Lab as of October 2018. So anyway, so once you have those apps downloaded or app downloaded, that's the most important part, is that you have the Amazon Seller app, because that's what we're going to use in store to scan for products whenever we want to sell something online. So we're going to start with step 1 here. So the step 1 says scan the product UPC or barcode. You know, you're familiar, like right here. And you're going to use the Amazon Seller app or Inventory Lab Scoutify app to do that. So when you scan that, let me reference the term scan, okay? When we say you should be out scanning for products, yes, it does mean, you know, physically scanning barcodes, but it also means, you know, like scanning the shelves and going out and looking for product. And let's say that you scan this barcode and it doesn't pull anything up. That doesn't mean you're done scanning the product. Sometimes you can type in the name, you know, you could type in 16.9 ounce sparkling water and see what comes up, and that'd be another way of scanning for product, but you definitely need to do that. And so let me show you how to do that exactly. If you go to the Amazon Seller app, you're going to click the Add a Product button that's right under your sales graph, and it's going to bring you to this screen right here. Okay, let me get it set there. And you see, you can type in that search bar up top right here, the UPC code if you want to, or the title of the product you're looking to sell, or you can click this little camera button right here, and it will let you scan the UPC code like so. And that pulls up a bunch of different options for that brand of sparkling water. So that's one way to scan for products. And then, you go into the listing, and we're going to talk more about that now. So let's move on. It says, if the barcode doesn't pull the product up, you can always try typing in the title of the product. If you can't find the product, move on to the next one. Just go back, start over. If it's not listed right now, we're not going to be creating listings to sell on Amazon. We're going to be finding products that already have listings. It's way simpler, and I think it's the easiest process to get you to find something that you can make some money on and send it into Amazon, and that's the whole goal of this whole thing. So right now, if it doesn't have a listing, just move past it, okay? We're going to go right back to step one, start scanning the next thing. Step two, pick a listing. Like you saw on my phone there's 3 or 4 or 5 different options to select from that UPC code. Now, the thing is, one of them is going to be a 24 pack, and one of them is going to be a 12 pack, and maybe one of them is lime flavored, and one of them is a mixture of lime and regular flavored, and you need to make for certain that you select the correct listing whenever you're trying to decide if it's profitable or not. Because if you're trying to buy one of these, and you can buy it for $1, and you click on the listing and it says selling for $24, well, that seems like a really good deal. But if it's for a 24 pack and they're all $1 a piece, that's not profitable. So you need to know for certain that you're looking at the right product. So make sure that the variations and things match your product. And it should be noted that sometimes you should look at other listings, like the 24 pack, to see if there is money to be made. And whenever you take one thing that's sold by itself and you put it together to sell, we'll say 12 of them, you buy them all for 50 cents and 12 of them selling for $24, well then, there's some meat on the bone there, and that's called bundling, when you're taking things and putting them together. Now, Amazon doesn't like you to bundle different brands, right? So they wouldn't want you to sell 6 Pellegrinos and 6 Joe's Sparkling Waters together if they're 2 separate brands. That's a no-no in their terms of service, if you will, and they'll shut a listing like that down. So anyway, first thing you're going to do is make sure you're picking the right listing and if bundling is worth it or not. So we're going to move on to step 3 here if everything matches up so far. So step 3 is check the price. Is the lowest new, not used, new FBA price, and when I say FBA price, I mean a prime offer. Whenever you go down to the offers, it says prime next to it, which means free 2-day shipping. That essentially means that person is selling via FBA like we are. They've shipped their products into Amazon warehouses, and because they have done that, now Amazon offers free 2-day shipping on those products. So that's the only people we're worried about competing with right now. We'll talk more about other competition down the road, but right now I want you to look and see, is the lowest new prime offer, is that price higher than what you're buying the item for, right? So the lowest prime offer, let's say, we're gonna keep using this as an example. I'm sorry, it's just what I have next to me. Let's say you're buying this for $1 for one, right? And there is a prime offer that is selling for $12 for one. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but you would be surprised what people will pay for on Amazon, but it might actually happen one day. Anyway, so if the lowest new price, not used, is higher than what you're paying for the item, then we're going to move on to step 4. If it is not, as in if it's not profitable, we're going to go all the way back to step 1. Start scanning other products. Move on. And the speed is the name of the game with this, because there's so many products to scan out there that you can't just get bogged down going through details and details and details about one product you need to move on to the next thing. In my beginning stages, I was really bad about that. I'm a numbers guy. So I got deep into these details, and I would spend 10 minutes analyzing a product that wasn't good from the second I scanned it. So this is going to simplify that process. Follow these steps. Don't go down the rabbit trail quite yet. The rabbit trail is important, but not yet. So anyway, we're going to move on to step 4, since we found that there is some profit to be had in this item. So step 4 is to make sure that you can actually sell the product on Amazon. Just because it's listed on there and just because somebody else is selling it doesn't mean you can. So are you restricted on this item, or is it eligible even to be sent into an FBA warehouse? There are things that are not eligible to be sent into FBA warehouses. There's hazmat items, as in items that are, like aerosol cans for the most part are not allowed. Chemicals, flammable items, and here's the deal. Even though you and I realize that, Scott's Lawn products aren't necessarily going to combust into flames, they still might consider them flammable. And understandably so, because if that one bottle were to catch a spark in a 100-degree warehouse in the middle of summer, the whole thing goes up in flames. So they're very strict on this. You have to take a look and see. So if you scroll through, if you have the Google Doc open, or if you look at the thing here, I'm going to circle this right here. This is some of the stuff you're going to look for to see if your product is restricted. So whenever you scan it in the Amazon Seller app, and Inventory Lab, they have like a whole thing that you're signed into your account and you can see if it's restricted or not, which is really, really great and a super time saver. We're going to talk more about Inventory Lab. I love it. I don't know how I ever lived without it, and it's just great. But anyway, still can be done without it. So in the Amazon Seller app, you're going to see a couple different things. We're talking about these 2 images right here. If you see this little circle with a line through it next to the product photo, then that's a pretty good indicator that you can't do it, okay? And then also, if you just straight up see that, this is a restricted product thing, you can't sell it. That's all there is to it. I know it's frustrating, especially when you find, like that camera. If you find that camera for $10 on clearance and it's selling for $94, it's really frustrating, because you just can't sell it there. Now, don't always explore other avenues. If you can sell it on eBay, or if you can sell it on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or to your buddy, I don't care. If there's money to be made, you should consider buying it. But we're not talking about that right now. Right now, we're talking about selling stuff on Amazon. So if it is restricted, we're going to stop what we're doing, go all the way back to step 1. Don't get bogged down by the number of restricted products you're going to run into, because there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff you're not going to be able to sell right out the gate. As you become a more seasoned seller, you can get what they call ungated in other categories that will allow you to sell things like health and beauty products and grocery products, and you can't sell those things right out the gate. But that's going to be okay. There's still so many products. I think the last time I looked, there was some 60 million listings on Amazon, and that might be really, really low now. I have no idea. It's been a long time since I looked. But just think about that number. I mean, that's astounding. There's so many products to sell on Amazon, so do not get bogged down by restrictions. I did at one point, and it really put a damper on my business. I kept thinking, well, I can't find anything to sell because I'm restricted in everything. But I had guys that were restricted in the same stuff that I was, that were selling hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So it's kind of one of those things where it's mind over matter. It really is. You just got to move on to the next thing and keep moving on, keep moving on, keep moving on. So anywho, if you're not restricted and it is eligible for FBA, then we're going to move on to step 5. Step 5, we're going to click on the gross proceeds button. That's right beneath the photo. Like right, here's the photo. It's right down in this area right here. You're going to click on that gross proceeds button, which is also an image on the slide in the Google Doc. And you're going to enter the cost of the item that you want to sell into the cost of purchase field. And make sure all the other fields look right. So, for instance, if you're going to put in the cost of purchase down there on that creative bioscience listing, we bought it for $5.25. And the lowest new price, which yet again, the lowest new prime price, which you're going to see by clicking on the listings and looking through it, the lowest new prime price is $32. So if our cost of purchase is $5 and they have, their 5% tax or whatever, then we're going to add it all in together. It's going to be $5.25 is what we're going to pay for the product. And so then it's going to spit out a number down there that is your projected profit. Now, keep in mind, this is projected. It's not to a T every single time. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but it's always really close. So you're going to go ahead and put in that cost of purchase. You're going to be able to see if there's money to be made. Sometimes you're going to be like, oh, those fees from Amazon are just massive. You just got to move past it. It's just a part of the game. It's one of those things in the process. You're going to look at it and go, $20 to ship this item, that's outrageous. Well, if you bought the item for 25 cents, then it's not so outrageous. If there's money to be made, it doesn't matter what the fees are. Just the profitability matters, okay? So one thing to talk about real quick that I don't think I put in here, that little shipping to Amazon thing there, it says you estimate 50 cents per pound. That's a really good general number to estimate. And you can change that in your Amazon seller app settings. I'm not going to go through it. I'm not sure where it's at, but it's in there. You just change your estimated per pound shipping rate to 50 cents per pound. And yet again, this is October 2018. It's been that way for the past 3 or 4 years, so that should still be relevant. But anywho, we're going to make sure that this product is profitable. If it is not profitable, you're going to go all the way back to step 1. Start over. If it is profitable, we're going to go ahead and move on to step 6. And when I say profitable, if you're making 10 cents, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not. But there's people that have different business models than me, okay? If you have an insane amount of capital and you can buy everything that makes a dime ever, then by all means, you buy anything that you're going to make money on. But if you have limited capital, like most of us, who are small business owners and trying to make ends meet and pay the bills, then make sure that the profitability matches what your business model is looking for. In general, I like to make $5 to $10 at least a unit. If I'm gonna go through the process of sending it in and stuff, that's how much I want to make. And my average is way higher than that. I think my per unit profit average is like $18 or $19 a unit. But that's not a goal. That just is what it is. But I shoot for $5 plus per unit. And that just depends on your business model. Don't take that to heart. Everybody's is different, okay? So if you want to do something else, that's totally and solely up to you. So anyway, the product is profitable. We're going to move on to step 6, okay? So the next question we have to ask ourselves, is Amazon a seller on the product? Are they on the listing? Amazon.com. Are they listed as a seller? So what you're going to do is you're going to go down there and click on the new and used list, or the new listings, really. That's all we're going to be selling. And click on the new listings and see if Amazon.com has an offer, like a price, and then it says Amazon.com. If they do, here's the thing. Let me just read what I wrote here. It's pretty accurate. I said, if Amazon is a seller, this is 9 times out of 10 a no-go. But if the item is highly profitable, then it might be worth moving on to the next step and checking to see if Amazon shares the buy box, which we're going to talk about, on this particular item. And see step 11-3 to see if Amazon shares the buy box. So we're going to talk about that in step 11. And if no, if Amazon is not a seller, that's a good thing. We're going to move on to step 7. So here's the problem with Amazon being a seller. Amazon is, it's their platform, right? It's their website. If they bought this product, they're going to sell it for cheaper than you can possibly sell it most of the time. And also, they're not going to allow you to have the market space that they have, okay? Because they're invested and it's their platform and they have every right to do that. It's really frustrating at times because, yet again, like on the camera situation, if you can buy it for $10 and you're not restricted and you can sell it for $95, but Amazon is a seller, now that's a little bit different scenario. If I have that much meat on the bone, like $80, then I might still hop in because I know that Amazon's probably not even buying those at that low. That's below cost, you know. So if there's a ton of meat on the bone, sometimes I'll play their games. If there's not, then I just move on, because I know that it's going to take me either months to sell it or until they run out of stock, and some other things, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But anyway, so if they're not a seller, which is what we're looking for, we're going to move on to step 7, okay? So in step 7, we're going to click on the Features and Details button down at the bottom of that listing in the Amazon Seller app. After you've scanned it and you've selected your listing, down at the bottom there's a button that says Features and Details. We're going to copy the ASIN number. Now, on a phone, you know, you're going to hold your thumb over the ASIN number. It's going to highlight it and click Copy. And once you've copied that number, you can also look in the top right corner and remember what the category says, okay? So copy that ASIN, and then in the very top right, remember what that category says. So there on that Creative Bioscience listing, the ASIN's down there, you copy it, and in the top right, it is Health and Personal Care. That's just the category that it's in. We need to remember that when we're doing our research, okay? So after you've done that, we're going to move on to step 8, and we're going to go to Keepa.com on your phone. And you'll have to do it in the browser. Keepa at this point doesn't have an app, which I really wish they did, because it is a really, really handy tool. And by the way, it's a handy tool even if you're not selling on Amazon. Even if you're buying stuff, just like for your house, and you want to know if you're overpaying or if the item's ever cheaper than it currently is or that kind of thing, it's a really good tool to use for that kind of thing, especially around Christmas. So we're going to go to Keepa.com, and you're going to click the search for products little bar right there. It might be in like a sub menu. I have to like click up there and go to it. You're going to click that search for products button, and you're going to paste the ASIN in there. Let me find that ASIN again, make sure that I have the right one as well. So you're going to paste that ASIN in there, and it's going to pull up a graph, right? This graph is going to give you a lot of details about the past history of that listing on Amazon. You know, we talked about how the ASIN is tied to that specific listing. So once you put that ASIN into Keepa, Keepa tracks sales history and sales data as best as they can. In recent years, over this year in 2018, I've found that it's not the be-all, end-all. It used to be for me. I used to really, really trust those graphs, and now there's a few inconsistencies in the process, but we're going to still use it because I think it is the easiest way for you to get a feeling for what's selling, what sales rank is a good sales rank, and it does give you a really great indicator if something has been selling in the past, which is the most important factor in if we're going to buy a product or not. So anywho, you're going to paste that ASIN number in the search bar and go ahead and search for the item. We're going to do a little bit of Keepa training in another video, which I'd forgotten that we're going to do, but it says it right here, so we're going to make a Keepa video apparently. Anywho, we're going to do that, and you're going to want to verify a few things. So if you haven't watched the Keepa video yet, you can hold on for a second, go ahead and listen to what I have to say, go watch the Keepa video, and probably make more sense. You can come back and watch it again. Like I said, this video is not meant to be consumed, it's meant to be a resource. So we're going to move on to that right now. So if you haven't watched the Keepa video, notate that you need to go watch that. So one of the things we're going to talk about is what is the item's 90-day average rank and price. So this is going to tell us over the past 90 days, what has the average sales rank for this product been inside of its category. So let's say the average sales rank has been 90,000 over the past 90 days. That's a pretty good average sales rank in that personal care category. You know, make sure you remember that, 90,000, okay? And then you're also going to look at the average price, because there is such a thing in any market as inflation. So let's say we scan this and it says it's selling for $24. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in there and we're going to search and see, is this just inflation? A lot of times when you're finding something like this that you go, is it really $24? a lot of times it's just inflated. But sometimes you'll run across a product or a listing that truly is selling for $24 and has been for a long time. When you run across those are the low-hanging fruit. That's the best stuff, is whenever you find things that are selling for a lot more than you think they would, but it's because you and the only other people on that listing are the only people selling it. So people are willing to pay $24 just to not have to go to the store. Blows my mind, but it's a real thing, I promise. So anyway, we want to make sure that the price isn't inflated. If we look at that average 90-day price, and right now it's selling for $24, but its average price has been $6, then we know that it is inflated, okay? So we want to make sure that it's not extremely inflated. Sometimes inflation, if you can get the product in and it's a really low sales rank and you think you can catch the back end of that inflation, then sometimes you can win. I've done that before too. Just took a risk on some products and sent them in just to see if I could get them sold. I've won and I've lost at that game. So it's, it's a 50-50. That being said, we're going to move to the next step here inside of step 11. We're going to go to junglescout.com/estimator. Now this is a sales rank estimator, okay? And this is going to allow you to select the category. Remember, we notated that it's in health and personal care. It's going to let you select the category, and then you're going to go in there and you're going to input that 90-day average rank inside the category. So remember, we talked about the average 90-day rank was, we'll say, 90,000 in health and personal care. So we go over to health and personal care. We select that button on junglescout.com estimator, junglescout.com/estimator. Select health and personal care and type in 90,000, and it's going to spit out a number that is an average. Keep that in mind. It is an average. It is not necessarily set in stone that this product is going to sell X amount of these a month, but it is an average number of units that sell every 30 days for that listing at that rank in that category. Totally an average. It's not even talking about this item. It's saying if an item is an average of 90,000 in health and personal care, then it should be selling this based on past history and data. So it gives you a pretty good idea of how many units are selling a month. So you want to notate that down. Well, if it's selling 60 a month and there's only a couple competitors and there's 10 of them on the shelf, I can probably buy all of them, But that's how we're going to estimate how many we need to buy and how many we can sell. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the next thing is, by looking at the 3-month graph, is the buy box consistent with the price you want to sell it at? This kind of goes back to what I was talking about. Is the product inflated? So on the right side of that graph, there's some dash marks there, and you can select new FBA offers as one of those and make sure that's clicked and turned on. At this point right now, it's a pink triangle, I think, and you're going to be able to see on the graph if it's got pink triangles everywhere, and that's the quote-unquote buy box price that we've talked about in previous videos. So we want that buy box price to be consistent. Even if that 90-day sales average price is a little lower, the thing we're really looking for is kind of like step back from the graph and look at it and look where that line is, where that buy box has been, because that's really important. If it's been at $24 like we've been talking about, then that's where you want it to be. But if that thing has been jumping from 24 to 10 to 28 to 7 to 9 to 11 to 7 to 24, then it's really inconsistent. That gives you an idea of, if I send this in, am I going to be able to get it sold for what I think I'm going to be able to get it sold for? So yeah, we're going to look at that. And then also, this is really important. Is there orange on the graph? You're going to see it, trust me, you'll run into it all the time. Is there an orange section on the graph that's indicating that Amazon is on the listing? If so, is the pink buy box marker, the triangle, consistently on that orange line that indicates Amazon's price? Or is it sometimes above or below that orange line? This indicates that Amazon does in fact share the buy box. Meaning, yes, Amazon's on the listing. You can see that they've been on the listing. It's that orange line. But if the buy box has been below that and above that, then you know that they're sharing the buy box. That's an instance where I will absolutely compete with Amazon. If I can see every time on this listing they're allowing sellers to sell it for more and even less, and they're not competing for the buy box, and they haven't been for about 90 days, I'll play that game 10 times out of 10. I'm not worried about that. That's one of the only places where I really compete with Amazon and don't worry about it. So this indicates that Amazon does in fact share the buy box. Otherwise, if the buy box is always on that orange line, that means that Amazon 100% of the time does not share the buy box. That goes back to what we were talking about in step 6, and that's why I referenced 11.3 here, is because in step 6 we were talking about, is Amazon a seller, and this is why you wouldn't want to do it. If they have the buy box 100% of the time, unless you can undercut their price by a ton, like I was talking about, if they're still just meat on the bone because you bought your product for nothing, unless you can beat that price by a lot, then most of the time they're going to chase you all the way to the bottom, and you're still not going to win the buy box. Without the buy box, customers have to go searching for your product, and that's never a winning scenario. You can sell stuff like that. I've done it. All my colleagues have done it. But it's not the position you want to be in, especially right now. We're trying to buy good, profitable, quick-moving product for you to get started selling on Amazon. So if that buy box is consistent with that line, it's ... and it's never above or below the line on that graph, then we're going to move on. You're going to go back to step 1. We're going to throw that product away and move on to the next thing. And there's some argument there, and I understand advanced sellers, you would sometimes sell the product. I get that. But we're not talking about advanced sellers. We're talking about beginning sellers here. So don't take all this to heart. All of this information is totally up to you, the seller. If your business model calls for this kind of stuff, you do you. But this is just my guidelines for buying quick, fast-moving product on Amazon, where you're going to be able to make your first $100,000, however many dollars that you can make right out the gate. So, anywho, we've talked a little bit about Keepa, but once it's met all those criteria, it's got a good 90-day sales rank. It's moving plenty of units a month. We're going to talk about Amazon is not a seller, and the 3-month graph is consistent on price. We've talked about all those things. If it meets all those criteria that match your business model, then we're going to go ahead and move on to step 12. If not, put the product back on the shelf, move back to step 1. So, step 12. If the item meets all the criteria, now you need to decide how many units you can sell in a month to decide how many you should buy. So let's go back to this. If there's 50 units on a shelf, right, and they're selling for $1 and you decided they're profitable, sometimes if the listing is selling hundreds a month and you have competition and stuff, you can buy all those. But there's other times where it might be best to buy 4 or 5 or 10 or etc. I heard one time a guy who has sold a lot more on Amazon than I have. He is very, very successful and very wise. And he said that on products that he's never sold before, he won't ever go over $100 or 10 units deep, whichever one is first. Now, I know that that's a general guideline. He doesn't stick to that every time, but that's a good general guideline. If you're a little weary about some of the data, if you see that there's 30 of them and you don't know that you can get them all sold, then maybe buy 10 or only put in $100 and know that the next time you see them, if they do all sell, you can buy all of them. Don't miss great opportunities though. Sometimes it's worth buying all of them, even if they're not all going to sell in a month. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to decide how many you should buy. We're going to go to the Amazon app now in step 13. And this is the Amazon app, not the Amazon seller app. I'm getting confused. The Amazon app, like where you would buy stuff for your house. You're going to go in there and you're going to enter that ASIN that we talked about in that search bar on Amazon.com, the app. Once you insert that, it's going to pull up that exact listing we were talking about. We're going to double check that the current buy box price is correct. You know, the one that we've been researching against, making sure that we can sell it for that it's going to be profitable. So we want to make sure that that buy box price is consistent. And then we're going to go down and we're going to click on the new offers, you know, the new from X amount of dollars button at the bottom, or see all buying options. Then click the filter new. And we're going to see how many new, not used, FBA or prime offers there are within $1 of that price. So if the buy box is $36, we're going to see how many sellers that are selling prime are selling within $1 of that $36 mark, below and above. If there's, you know, 50 offers, it doesn't matter. All we're worried about is the ones that are selling within $1 of the buy box. Those are going to be what we call competitors. Those are people who are actually actively seeking out the buy box. That's people you're going to be trying to sell against on the product. So that's going to tell you the number of people you are potentially competing for to win the buy box. So that's going to tell you the number of competitors that you have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that number in the sales rank estimator on junglescout.com/estimator. Put in your 90-day average sales rank and spit out that number. That's how many units are selling a month. You're going to take that number and divide it by the number of competing sellers on that listing. So that's step 14 right here. And you can find that total number of monthly sales in step 11.1. And you're going to divide it by the number of sellers competing for the buy box plus yourself. That's the thing. The number of people competing for it plus yourself. If there's 10 people competing, add yourself into it. That makes 11. So you're going to divide, let's say, for instance, this is selling for $24. And that's what's winning the buy box. I'm going to go into the listing. I'm going to type in the ASIN. I'm going to go down to the bottom, select the new offers, and there's 4 people. One of them selling for $24 at the lowest price. He's a prime offer. One of them selling for $24.25. This guy's selling for $24.27, and this guy's selling for $24.60. Okay, these 4 guys are competing for the buy box, and there's like 10 other guys down here all selling for $30+. Those 4 guys are my competitors. I'm going to be the 5th competitor. We're going to go in. We put this average sales rank in of like 90,000 or whatever we talked about. Let's say it's selling 25 a month. Okay, 25 units a month. Then I know that if I take that 25 divided by 5, that's me plus all the other sellers, I can at the very least sell 5 units a month if I'm not even undercutting the price. I'm just competing at that $20 a month price mark. If there's enough meat on the bone and you're okay selling these for $12 instead of $24, look at the sales graph and see what it's done before. If somebody's done that before and they've moved units, tons of units, do it. Do it. Buy them all, sell them all. If there's enough meat on the bone, it's always worth being the better competition. But if you're buying it and it's kind of around like that 30% ROI mark, like your low end of what you're willing to accept, then you just want to make sure that you just buy enough that you can actually sell through. I like to sell through my inventory within 30 days. There are some units that I will buy 2 months worth if I know that there's a lot of meat on the bone and that the price has been super consistent. Sometimes I'll go a little bit deeper, especially if I have extra capital to spend. So that's how you're going to decide how many units to buy. If there's 30 of these on the shelf and you can only sell 5 a month out of that number, you know, we talked about, then you should only think about going 5, 10 deep, depending on if you want to sell through them in a month or 2 months or, you know, however you want to look at it. And some people, you know, this is a little trick of the trade. Some people will buy 20 of them. They'll take 10 of them home and they'll send the other 10 to Amazon, and they'll sell those 10 on Amazon and they'll have the 10 at home. And if they all sold, then they'll go ahead and send in those other 10. And if not, sometimes people will keep them, they'll keep the receipt, and they'll take them back to the store. That is the nice part about big box retail. Part of the reason they're losing as well is because they offer those nice long return processes. So it's kind of a risk-free game. It's kind of risk-adverse. But anyway, that's how you're going to decide how many of them you should sell. And that's step 14 there. Definitely learn that. You really want to learn that process because it's really important. So step 15, once you've completely qualified the product, check out, take it home, and now it's time to prep, label, ship, and list your items on Amazon.com. I know that was a lot of information, guys. I really do. That's years in the making. It's taken me a long time to put that together, but that's the whole purpose here, is that I'm putting together something that you can go back and reference and walk through. And I know that there's going to be parts of this that might be a little convoluted, that maybe I got caught up talking about, personal stories or whatever. But regardless, if there's questions that you have, please ask. Please. There's going to be a thread on the ORB radio page where you can comment at any time with any question that you have. And you can also submit questions to me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, at the ORB radio. And you can also email me, jsam@orbradio.com, and I'll do my best to answer those questions either on the podcast, on social media, or even replacing them in this guide if I was unclear about something. So, like I said, not meant to be completely consumed in one sitting. Go back, re-watch the parts of this video you need to watch to really learn this process. If you can watch this 40-minute video 20 times in the next month, I promise you're going to be a master at scanning products a month from now. And once you master that skill, the rest of it is simple. Once you know how to find profitable product, then you won't be able to walk into a big box store without scanning. You just can't help it because there's so much money just floating around. So, like I said, I hope this helped you guys. In the next video, I think the next video we're going to talk about, it might be Keepa. I just realized that I have to make that video now that I put it in the notes. But we're going to either talk about Keepa or prepping, labeling, listing, shipping products. So move on to the next video after you've worked through this, and we're going to talk about how to get started shipping products to Amazon. So thanks for watching, guys.